My name is Maya Minder. I'm an artist from Switzerland. I work in bioart, sometimes biohacking, and I also promote female technology. I got inspired by fungi as something that is a natural commodity. And of course I read the book of Anna Zink-Löwenhaupt, which was kind of very inspiring in a state of my career where I already worked with bacteria, with fermentation, and fungi was kind of a consequence as well. I mean, within fermentation you have the yeast fungi that is quite present and a very important factor. And I was also doing a lot of wild herb foraging, so all those topics that were relating to nature, ecology. For example, with the wild herbs, I am foraging them a lot for also tea making and using them as a benefit for health and alternative medicine as well. And to encounter the fungi was just a consequence. So doing forays with fungi is a bit more complicated than with the wild herbs, because 96% of the wild herbs are edible in Switzerland, and with the fungi it's exactly the opposite. So only about 5% are edible, and it's quite more challenging to dig into this resource. And fungi, of course, is something that we associate from our childhood time with all the fairy tales and the old legends and the myths from back in a time. And I think there's still so much knowledge within those legends and methodologies and fairy tales that it's similar to fermentation. It's something that we can dig into, so to rescue this knowledge again and to make it visible. Art science is a very interesting topic, I think, because there's a convergence between the two disciplines, between the arts and the sciences. And I once heard about a research that was claiming that the arts and the sciences are the most remote disciplines within our society. So as the artist, as the scientist, they need somehow a translation and to become a subject within the societies. And this is especially nowadays, which didn't always was the case. I mean, if you go into history of art and the history of science, here in the West you start to talk about the modernities, talking about the modern times, modern art history in pluralities, realizing there was a geographical difference in what is modern times and what not, or what was the chronology of abstract painting and deconstruction of all those linear concepts within the arts. And I think in the sciences, in science, this is the same case. Like, you can say that there is a science that has a different ontology in Middle Europe than in Japan, than in Latin America, and both of them, they also had times where they were more popular than in other times. So I remember then that when I was living in Belgrade and in Serbia, I encountered that the appreciation for the science and for the arts was more present than what I witnessed in my hometown. Of course, this is relational and depending on what circles of humans you are together and what media you consume, but I still think that art and science is somehow a part of human patrimonial that has it, especially in those times nowadays, that has difficulties to become visible as well. And I think with the mycologist, for example, we really felt that mycology is a topic apart within the science, because science is so big, right? So mycology is a topic within science that also is lacking of popularity and that needs to be promoted in a way that people start to understand how entangled those fields are, also with an ecological field, in a sense of how we protect our nature and how inside nature everything is entangled. And my approach was mainly by doing fermentation. In the beginning, I had this encounter with bacteria and the microorganisms that taught me a lot about this invisible and unknown world. And through food and fermentation, the process or the work that those microorganisms are doing became visible as well. And while I was digging into the arts of fermentation, I also encountered this one female scientist called Lynn Margulis. And Lynn Margulis is the female scientist that talks about coevolution. And out of her biography, I learned a lot about how science as well has some paradigms, and how science is also a discipline that is much steered by preoccupations, by mainly patriarchal or male connoted notions as well. Lynn Margulis discovered the mitosing cell theory. So this idea that from the prokaryote cell, the next evolutionary step to become a eukaryotic cell was by two bacteria eating each other. And the two of them, or the one who was the dominant who ate the other one, suddenly realized that it is for him or her or it more beneficial to not digest this organism or to kill it, but to live in a symbiosis together. And out of this was the origin of the mitochondria and also the origin of the chloroplasts, right? And we could say that all life, animal and plant life, has derived from this force. And I think must have been a crazy event in evolution, similar to the Big Bang as well, right? It must have been something that was altering the roots entirely and giving us a path to bigger things. And Lynn Margulis, she was interesting that she discovered this theory only by merely observing microorganisms via microscoping. And for her lifetime, she was just microscoping all the time. And as I read from her biography, Lynn Margulis was always a bit of a revolting character, or radical in that sense that she didn't follow the classical academic career way. I mean, she published articles, but she was not eager in making a bigger career in winning a Nobel Prize, although she should have won a Nobel Prize with her discovery. And nowadays, even nowadays, I think to most of the scientists, Lynn Margulis is still an unknown character. And this for me represents so much about how alternative or feminist or queer approach, even within a discipline that talks about universality and knowledge, is very much underestimated. This force of the symbiosis, which is against a saying of survival of the fittest, so the theory of a neo-Darwinist, which talks about the fitter character, the fitter species, which talks about competition, is so much a metaphor for what capitalist words are. And so I really feel that those ideas and theories that how Lynn Margulis is currently also interpreted within the culture sector within the arts, is giving a metaphor for how to live alternatively in a capitalist society. So the question, why are you here, came from our driver and an external person who just randomly asked us in his simple mindset, why did we came all the way down here to study fungi? And all of us sitting in the bus, it struck us that this was a very essential question, asking like, why did we use so much carbon footprint, and what are somehow the cosmologies also that brought us there as well. And I think it's a very legitimate and essential question to ask this, to say like, what are the strings that pull us all together to be in Patagonia? Not only Patagonia, but also the Swiss Alps that we are going, and the Amazonas forest that we were before. And for me, it was just like I plan to do so for me is I'm filming here a lot. I try to document everything by camera because I see there is a lot to that all this experience that we are doing, it's ought to share. So when I say cosmology is about what are the things that are pulling us to come here to Patagonia, is something that I encountered quite often in my life, and it talks about serendipity and synchronicity, right? And this is a concept which is contradicting a linear and a chronological time measurement, and it really talks about this entanglement that fungi has as a mycelium, right? The fungi is communicating with each other. Fungi can nurture trees and can send signals throughout their entire mycelium. This pattern somehow is repetitional. It's repetitional in our brains. It's repetitional in our guts. It's repetitional if you look closely into nature, how trees are growing, how everything, there is always this kind of pattern that is reappearing. And I think this network theory that also Guattari and Deleuze was coming up with, the rhizome theory, that they said there's no more linearity, but all is connected in the same time in all the places mutually, is really something that also shapes this cosmology, I think. And so it maybe sounds naive, or maybe something that science will not be able to measure or to objectify. I still believe that this intuition and this given thing, which some people could say, this is fate, or some people say, this was meant to be, or some people say that, this comes from God also, that this is somehow this rhizomatic network that we are all consisting of, and we are bringing with us.